We are. Okay. Let's see here. Hey, everybody. It's Adam Winnig here, and I just want to make sure that we are all good to go here technologically wise. I'm waiting on Mandy Keene here, the special guest of today. Would you guys, if you're on here, oh, there she is. Oh, yes, there she is.
Hey, how's it
Mandy.
going?
Hey, you doing well? How are you?
Wonderful.
Good. I was just messaging you. I was so nervous that like you had forgot or something, but I knew.
Oh, coach, no shows. Now Adam's just got to entertain. You could do it.
I wasn't sure what I was gonna say. I was like gonna make it up.
Hey, I bet you could. I bet you could make some good stuff up.
Oh man, I'm so happy to see you. Cool. Hey everybody, we are just getting going here live. If you guys can hear us okay in the chat box, would you just give us a Y if you can hear us okay? I want to make sure you can hear us and you can also see me and Mandy. So if you can, just do a Y in the chat
We got
box.
lots of Y's.
Oh, we're getting lots of Y's, Mandy. Everyone's excited. I've been hyping you up, Mandy.
Oh, is there some of the same people from last year, or is it mostly new?
I don't know yet. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of new people, maybe a couple people from last year. So
Cool.
anyways, yeah, I do see a couple people from last year, so this is exciting. And more and more people are tuning in, but we're just going to go ahead and get started. It seems like you guys can both hear us and see us. Okay, we're getting a bunch of Y's. So
You look like you're going to go play golf, Adam.
I actually just played this morning.
Oh, awesome. I love it.
And so a friend of mine, he moved into this really nice country club in Boca Raton, just down south here.
Oh, I've heard that's nice.
Oh my gosh, he's going to be living so good. Yeah, it's really
cool.
Anyways, all right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and start off. I know a lot of you guys have messaged me and you're all real excited. And I want to give Mandy the proper introduction because anybody that meets Mandy just like falls in love with her. She's amazing. She has amazing energy and she's really, really, really good at what she does. And she's extremely good at helping entrepreneurs have breakthroughs and getting them to perform at their highest levels. And so I have to tell you the quick story because it was last year around this time that I had a call with Mandy and I told her that I wanted to have a big 2017. And she told me that, you don't need to do all this goal setting stuff. All that's crap. You need to do what's called goal achieving. And I'm assuming you're going to talk about this as well. And so anyway, she walked me through this process that was really different than what I had normally done for New Year's, because normally in New Year's, I'd, say, here's all these different categories that I want to achieve. And I'd write all these goals. And then by February, they're pretty much forgotten about. And it really wasn't until Mandy taught me the strategy that I think actually remembered what my goal was for starters. But the crazy thing is like everything that I wrote down on that piece of paper has like happened to a T. Like my business has grown to right the exact amount that I put. Even this family vacation that we weren't sure if it was going to happen, it ended up happening. And so what you guys are about to experience is like extremely powerful. So make sure that you have a little notepad or something to write on. You have a pen. You're taking notes this whole time because this is going to be really, really special. It really was a big breakthrough for me, and I've talked about it so many times. So I'm just excited to have you on here again, Mandy. Mandy, thank you so much. So we'll just pass it over to you and you take it away.
Adam, well, first off, you're incredible, and I just love how you implement and take action. So I can't take full credit for you accomplishing all that because I know that you implemented it and you took the action. It's one thing to hear a great idea. It's another thing to implement it. So I acknowledge you for that. And thank you for that intro. And hi, guys. It's great to be here. I love this conversation, especially this time of year, because like you said, Adam, there is a lot of crap out there when it comes to goal setting. And like the worst word, if you guys ever meet a coach, like the worst word you could say to us usually is resolutions. That's like the amateur way of setting goals. And when it comes to goal setting, it really is a process and an art. And I like to use the word, like Adam said, we don't care about setting goals, really. We care about achieving them. And there's a difference with the mindset with anybody can set a goal. Anybody can set a goal. And what happens, and here's the actual danger in setting goals and not knowing how to achieve them. The danger is if you set really big goals, and that's what a lot of, let's say, goal setting workshops and even, some motivational speakers out there will say, set a goal, what number, how much money you want to make this year, whatever. Now cross that out and double it, make it bigger. The biggest mistake is they're having you think big. And then guess what happens if you set a big goal and you don't achieve it? If you've ever experienced this, you could put in the thing, me too. I know I've set big goals and then not achieved it. And then what happens is that hurts our self-credibility, our self-credit, our self-esteem, is when we set a goal like, I'm going to lose this much weight or I'm going to make this much money, and then you don't achieve it, you start to not to trust yourself. And that's the danger in setting goals that are really big and you have no plan of action, no strategy, and no real certainty and confidence. You're kind of crossing your fingers and hoping and wishing that it comes true. And that's the majority of people. As the majority of people, they'll set a goal and they'll even get excited about it, kind of like a warm bath, but they're doing this, they're crossing their fingers, closing their eyes, hoping and wishing it happens. And then that is the perfect recipe for a low self-esteem. And with years of doing that, that's when you meet that jaded person in the bar that says, don't set goals, because they've done it over and over and over again and they haven't achieved it. So I'd like to set you guys up to win. I'm going to share with you, like I shared with Adam and some of the team last year, my 5-step goal achieving process. And as I go through this, I'm going to give you some examples, but I'd also love, Adam, if we have time, if there's any questions, because I know like sometimes it really helps to have some custom feedback. And so I'd love to add even more value to your team if you guys ever have any questions, and feel free to ask them as we go here too. So the 5-step process, if you're taking notes, it's an acronym. I'm a big fan of acronyms because I find it so easy to remember acronyms. Is COACH, C-O-A-C-H, COACH. So that is the goal achieving process that myself and a couple of my incredible coach buddies have come up with. And so the first C stands for create an inspiring vision. And this is the first step. If you guys have studied Jim Rohn, Jim Rohn's one of my favorites, and one of my favorite quotes Jim Rohn says is, you've got to begin with the end in mind. And so this is really important. And I say vision more than goal because you could say, let's say I want to weigh a certain amount, or I want to have this much in the bank. But what you really want is to change your life. That's what you really want. And so it's like, what's the vision? So you want to create an inspiring vision that's even past the goal of the number, the weight, or the relationship, or whatever it may be. And you want to make it inspiring to you. Like, what does that look like for you? Like, what's inspiring to Adam may not be inspiring to me. I mean, I don't play golf, but that might be in Adam's vision, right? So it's like, what is inspiring to you, and create that inspiring vision. And one of my favorite exercises that I really believe in, there's a lot of ways you can create inspiring vision. You can create a vision board. There's now technology with like creating like like your own like iMovie and make it really fancy and cool. I've got a really simple old school way that I like, and that is your future letter to yourself. And Adam, that's the exercise that you did, right? So I'm going to explain it. And then Adam, I would love if you want to add anything to what you went through and how you made your letter work. So cool. Here's the future letter exercise, you guys, is you're writing a letter to yourself today. So Matthew, Nick, Jenna, Eric, Oliver, Victoria, Alex, you're writing Alex. The future Alex is writing Alex today. So the future Alex that's already achieved this incredible, inspiring vision. And he's writing the current day Alex, and he's thanking him for what? So like for me, I usually acknowledge myself for being patient and persistent, because that's one of my weaknesses is I get really impatient. So if you tend to be really impatient, then your future self, it would be good for your future self to acknowledge, I acknowledge you for being patient and persistent. If you haven't been as courageous as you know you need to be, the future self could acknowledge you for being courageous. Like, what are some of the traits that you need to embody to bridge the gap from where you're at now to where you want your vision to be? And like, you don't have to overwhelm yourself. I'm talking like the top 3 to 5 traits: courageous, patient, disciplined, focused. What is it for you? Some of you are naturally, let's say, really good at being disciplined and focused, but you're not as good at being resourceful and flexible. Maybe that's what you need to embody more in order to bridge the gap for this vision. So you're acknowledging yourself for becoming more of that. And you're gushing to yourself about how incredible your life is now that this vision has happened. And you're describing to yourself, and if you can, and you don't have to stress out about this, you make it fun. If you can make like a movie scene of the future of, let's say, for example, if it's a money goal, like Adam could write about how he is able to now, go golfing Wednesday morning and being able to enjoy the sun and knowing his team's working and describing this like movie scene. For many people that I coach, like on relationships, they'll describe, let's say, their wedding day. I did this for myself when I was single. I described my wedding day to a T, and it was spooky how much my wedding day was exactly like how I imagined it to be before I even met my man. So this is really powerful. And the reason why, for some of you analytical people that might be going, okay, how does this really work, Mandy? How is this really helpful? 2 things. One is, this is really powerful because your mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and imaginary. One of the first people to say that was Albert Einstein. That's why he's quoted for imagination is more important than knowledge, because whatever we're focusing on, we're manifesting. And so whatever that is, that movie scene that you could create. And so here's a tip on creating a movie scene. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What are you feeling? Like if you're wearing certain clothes, I have some clients where they want to be professional speakers. So they're imagining being on a TED Talk, and they're imagining the TED Talk mic. They're imagining behind the green room and before they get up on stage. I have some clients that want to be on TV. So they're imagining like right before they get on the Ellen show or whatever it is for them. And so it's like you create this cool movie scene and you describe it as real as you possibly can. And you say like how incredible you feel that it's happened. And so now after you created this, write this letter to yourself. Here's what's really, really important. As I know some of you, like you could write this letter in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And here's what's most important is we got to keep the letter alive. And how we keep it alive is by putting it by your bedstand. And the reason why I say your bedstand is because I would love for you to read it right before you go to bed at night and right when you wake up. Because that is when our mind is the most impressionable. You ever want to change a habit or something that you believe? Your rituals right before you go to sleep and right when you wake up, those are the most precious times. Like if you study any major religion, any spirituality, anything like that, if you notice, they all have traditions for right before you go to bed and right when you wake up. And there's a reason for that. Our mind is kind of like a child's mind. It's very impressionable at those hours. And so if you read your letter right when you wake up, right before you go to bed, that's what's going to be on your mind. And that's what you're going to be focused on. And eventually, very quickly, actually, if you're like me, like my letter was 1.5 pages. You're going to get to the point where you're just going to look at that piece of paper and you're going to know what it says. You're not going to actually have to read it every single day and every single night. You'll just look at it and you'll quickly read it through your mind. And this will help keeping that alive. So now, Adam, I don't know if you want to hop back on and say what you're kind of describing what worked for you in your letter, because you said that everything that you wrote in your letter came true.
Yeah, I actually did it pretty much exactly what you talked about. Like I said, like, way to go, man. Like you did it. You were blank, blank, and blank. I acknowledge the traits that I need to. Would you go grab that for me? It's just, yeah. Yeah. I'll actually grab it right now and I'll read
cool.
if you guys want to. But yeah, I basically did this exactly. I said exactly what I wanted to have happen. And then you're right, for like the first maybe month or so, I would read it in the morning and then at night as well. And then like, it's just something that I always, now I don't even read it every single day, but like, I just glance at it and I know, like, I don't know if you're going to talk about like tying it into the emotional part or whatever, but like I get that. Oh, it's here. Do you want me to read it? By the way, it's only a half page.
Oh my gosh, we would love it. Are you kidding? Thank
Okay.
you. I love it.
There's some like choice language in it, but I don't really care. So, dear Adam, you did it. Way to go, champion. I'm so fucking proud of you. You're the man. I knew you could do it. I knew you could earn $1 million a year. You're now celebrating the good life with your family for a white Christmas in Tahoe. The air is crisp and fresh. It cleans the nostrils and lungs as it passes through your nose. You rented out a beautiful cabin and the family is all together. You're cleaning red wine glasses and toasting to the Winnig family, to love, to prosperity, and to a great year. Dad looks over at you with a smile on his face and he pulls you in and hugs you with love, a warm, tight, I'm proud of you embrace. And then he looks back and then he pulls you back, looks back and says earnestly into your eyes, I'm proud of you, son. I'm proud of you, son. You're prospering greatly and helping many people, serving humanity at a high level. Your energy is high and pure as you are one with God. You've stayed focused, blocked out time to dedicate strictly to revenue-producing activities. You stayed close to the Lord. You stayed grateful. You stayed focused on serving people, and voila, you did it. Cheers to an even better 2018. I'm proud of you, Adam.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a perfect example.
Yeah. And so the crazy thing is like that exactly happened. My business did $1 million and we're going to Tahoe for White Christmas. So
we're going to Tahoe. And I bet your dad's going to do that. Oh, and so something that you did that I really want to acknowledge and pass on to all of you guys is like, did you guys feel Adam's emotion? And that was like a movie scene. Like to me, that scene in Tahoe and your dad, and like, there's something very powerful about that father-son connection. And like, you really get what is driving Adam. And that is such a beautiful like scene right there. I'm so proud of you and having him pull you in. And it's like, you notice, you guys, here's what's powerful. Adam, you made $1 million, correct?
Yep.
So here's what's fascinating is notice like Adam in the letter said that million really quick. And then he created this scene that really had nothing to do with the $1 million, but it created the scene that was emotional to Adam. And that's what I'm talking about. That is the juice and the magic with goal achieving is you have to have what is going to touch Matthew, Nick, Jenna, Eric, Oliver, Victoria, Alex, Ingrid, Corey. What's it going to be emotionally for you? So let's say it is a goal, a financial goal or whatever it may be. You need to create that movie scene like that. You can tell that scene was very personal, Adam, to you. And you could tell like that moved me. Like I thought, wow, as someone who's friends with you, like you having that experience with your dad and like doing the toast for the family and your dad saying, I'm so proud of you, son. Like that. And that reminds me, and thank you for giving that as an example, how important it is for you guys. You've written a good letter, and look, Adam's wasn't long, which is great. You've done the job when you feel it. Like you're like, oh my gosh, if that happens, that would be so amazing. Like you feel it. When you guys were little kids, did you ever beg your parents for something? Like, oh, I really want it. Like, come on. Like you have that drive. We repress that as adults. And that's part of the mistake is we set goals that we're like, yeah, I mean, if I get it, it's cool. If I don't, it's all right. We're like, we don't like want to feel that drive because we're scared. That's really it. We're fearful that, and again, if you've set goals and it's not your fault because there's a lot of crap being taught on how to set goals. If you set goals before, like I have, and you've not achieved them, it's not entirely your fault because you haven't really been taught exactly how to do it with your mind and how to navigate it. And so it's really important for you to feel that emotion. And I would encourage all of you, if you're open to it, get a buddy, write your letter, share your letter with your buddy and see like, and make sure it passes that emotional test where you feel it when you read it. If you don't feel it when you read it, it's not done. So I'm excited for you guys to do that and to have that, again, by your bedside. And just like Adam said, about a month, you could just glance at it and then you knew. And what's amazing is you've heard so many times, you got to know your why, you got to know your why. Well, what's interesting is we usually make up the whys that we think sound good to other people. Like, let's be honest. Like, I want to, there's a funny, I'm kind of dating myself, but there's a funny Steve Martin Saturday Night Live where he's talking about what he wants for Christmas. And, he starts like saying, feed the children and world peace. And then he gets basically into that he wants a car and a lot of women. But so he's like making up what he think like is the nice thing or what would appear good. And it's not what he really wants. And I find the same thing, people do that with their whys. And so part of your movie scene is your why. And like, you could know, like, I know now, we all know, Adam, like, you're really driven by, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's very human. It's very normal. I think it's actually pretty healthy, especially if you have a nice dad. If your dad wasn't a nice man, then we'd have other issues. But you're wanting to make your father proud. That's a beautiful thing. Wanting to make your family proud, wanting to have this beautiful family gathering in Tahoe. That's a really powerful why. And so Adam had that emotionally associated. And I bet, Adam, would you say that that's helped you during this past year when things were sometimes challenging and difficult? For sure. Yeah. To absolutely be associated with that. Mm-hmm. Remember why the heck you're doing this and why you're trying some of these new things out. So yeah, so that's the most important step out of the 5 is the first one, you guys. If you get anything out of our time together, please get that. You could just do that and a lot can happen. But the other 4 steps are just as important. O stands for omit the lies, or you've probably heard stories, like what's your story? I like to say lie because that's what it is it's a lie. It's not true. You want to omit the lies that are holding you back. So for example, I'm not smart enough to make $1 million, or I don't work hard enough, or it's too late, I'm too young, I'm too old. Whatever that lie is that you've been telling yourself, I've tried it before and I failed. I always fail. Whatever it is, that lie, you want to omit it. Now, there's so many ways that we could omit those lies. I'm going to give you my one favorite that's the most powerful, and I think it's not only the most powerful, it's also the most like doable and most effective. And that is, we all know the power of stories. And so stories influence us. That's why we love movies. That's why like Adam is incredible at telling stories, inspiring people. So when it comes to your lie, think about it right now. Look at your vision, your number one goal of what you want, and think about what's your lie that's holding you back. Not smart enough, not good enough, whatever it may be. I've tried and I failed. Maybe it's something that someone else has told you that you are, that you've bought into. Now, whatever that is, like, for example, I'm coaching a woman right now who just met an incredible man. She's in her 40s, and she had the lie that she was too old to find the love of her life. And so what I told her to do is we needed to omit that lie, meaning we needed to destroy it. So she went out and she met 5 other women who met and fell in love with the man of their dreams over the age of 40. And when she met these 5 women and she got their stories, it completely changed her belief. Like now she's like, oh my gosh, it is possible. And so it's like you hear these stories. I mean, Adam telling his story of how he's become successful and how he's bridged that gap, that inspires other people, right? So you think about it for you and you want to customize what it is, what that looks like for you. So if it's, I've failed a lot and I haven't made it work, then you want to find a story of someone who's also failed a lot, but it finally worked for them. That's going to heal that lie. Does that make sense? That's going to help abolish that lie, because you're not going to buy into it, because you're going to go, oh no, that guy failed a lot too. He actually failed even more than I already have, and he's accomplished it. Okay, so it is possible. It's kind of like being an attorney for your mind. And so I found as a coach that this is so much more powerful than, let's say, pouring pink paint over your lie and going, oh no, you are smart enough. Just say that 100 times and you'll eventually believe it. No, I'm sorry, guys, that doesn't work. It doesn't last. It may make you feel good temporarily, because I used to do that too. But what I found and what I've been humbled to experience and learn as a coach is that doesn't last. And so I want to give you guys things that I know that really last. And if you get real life stories of other people. And it helps if you know them, or at least know someone who knows them. Like, you know that they're real. They're not fake, or they're not just Hollywood. You know that they're real, because what matters is you need to believe them. So that's step 2, omit the lies. Step 3, assess strengths and weaknesses. So the A is assess strengths and weaknesses. So Adam knows I'm a huge fan of DISC. If you guys aren't familiar with DISC, you could Google it, DISC. It's an assessment. It's probably one of the most popular behavioral assessments that corporate America uses in hiring employees, because it tells a lot of what they're going to be good at and what they're not going to be good at. And that's just one assessment. There's another one. There's a great book I highly recommend called Now Discover Your Strengths by Marcus Buckingham. And he's got a great assessment as well called the Strengths Finder. What this step is about is really knowing, okay, so let's say Corey Bell. So let's say you want to, achieve some great fitness goal. And let's say you're not very detail oriented, or you're not really sure on how to do that. Being aware of what Corey's strengths are and what Corey's weaknesses is going to help us design what's going to be Corey's best strategy. Let's say, Oliver, you want to make $1 million, and that's your goal. And let's say, Oliver, you're an introvert, and so you're extremely meticulous when it comes to details. So you need to be living more in your strength. So to make $1 million, we need to have you in your zone of genius, versus, let's say, if Oliver wasn't as great with people and he was trying to make $1 million being an extrovert and selling, then that's not going to be effective. Does that make sense to you guys? So it's like, you want to assess and you want to be honest about your strengths and your weaknesses. And if you're like, gosh, Mandy, I don't really know what my strengths and weaknesses are, then the DISC assessment is a great indicator to kind of get you educated. Yeah. Oh, Corey's a personal trainer. How perfect is that? Yes. So yeah, Corey, you know what I'm talking about. Like, you guys, I hired a personal trainer. You guys are very detailed with how you help people. So you got to know if, like, Corey, you want to build your personal training business, but let's say Corey's strength is working one-on-one with clients, but he's not as good, let's say, with marketing or being an extrovert or whatever. Or let's say, Corey, you don't like the details of Facebook ads. You need to make sure that you're honest about what your zone of genius is, and you want to work in your zone of genius. One of the things that Adam's done very well is he knows what he's good at, and he lives and works primarily in his zone of genius. So to accomplish your goal, whether it's a health goal or a wealth goal, you want to be in that zone of genius. And if you need help on discovering that, those assessments are a great tool. Hiring a coach that's specialized in this is a great thing as well. And then that leads to the fourth step, which is create a rock star team. Which, Corey, you'll like this, because I'm a huge advocate of hiring a personal trainer. I always say, like, if people really want to lose weight and get into shape, like, don't do all the home videos out there. I used to do it. Don't try and find what's the latest diet fad. Like, the people who eat, breathe, and sleep and understand the human body composition and all of that are personal trainers. So creating a rock star team doesn't just mean, let's say, being a business owner and hiring an assistant and a CPA. I mean, it could mean that, but it also means, like, for this vision to happen, who do you need on your team? One of the things that Adam's done really well in order to bridge the gap from where he was to making this $1 million this year is he's created a rock star team. So he knows how to be a leader. He knows how to hire. He knows how to find the right people. So when you think about your goals, who do you need on your team, both personally, professionally? For those of you who are single and you want to meet the love of your life, who do you need on your team? Do you have good friends? It was actually my bestie that introduced me to my husband. If I hadn't enrolled my bestie and let her know I'm ready to meet the love of my life, here's what I'm looking for, I probably wouldn't have met my husband today. So we need a team, no matter what our goals are, we need a team to help support us in bridging that gap. So one of the action items that I would give you, in addition to writing your letter and omitting the lies and assessing your strengths and weaknesses, is ask yourself, keep it really simple, because I know that sometimes we can overwhelm ourselves with, oh, I need all these different people. Think of, like, who's the next person? Who would be, like, number one that you need on your team? Like if you're need to lose weight and you want to get in shape and that's your goal and you don't have a personal trainer, my personal opinion, that's the next person you need to have on your team. If you are marketing and selling and you're really good at that, but you're overloaded with admin and you don't have any assistant and no one that like you're still doing admin work, then you probably need to have an admin person. So just think about like right now today, who's that first person? If you were to have one more person on your team, who would that be? And then make sure that they're the best. And how you make sure that they're the best is usually they have experience and testimonials, references. My trainer who I ended up hiring to personally train me, he's trained a ton of fitness models. No, I don't want to be a fitness model, but I want to be in shape. And I knew that because he's trained all these incredible fitness models, I knew that I had the best. So you want to think of that when you're hiring your rockstar team. Now, the fifth step is hone and focus. And honestly, I would say this is where most people, if you're really good at the first four, this is where most people sabotage and lose momentum, is honing and focusing on this goal. And so something I forgot to mention is when it comes to goal achieving, ideally, and I know many of you may not like this advice or truth, but it is going to be more helpful if you're willing to take it on. It's better to set one goal than 3 or 5. So I would invite you to pick one, like having that focus of one. There's been so much studies done on the mind, only like being able to have that one vision, that one main goal. If you ever like watch movies that are really inspiring, like The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith or anything like where they achieved greatness, they had their blinders on. They weren't focused on like 5 different things. They were focused on one thing. So that's something I forgot to mention, is that in your letter, it's like focusing on that one scene. Like Adam was really focused on the $1 million and then what was going to happen and his family in Tahoe and celebrating it. So you want to hone and focus on that one thing. And this is where it's so important because we only have so much time in the day. We only have so much energy. So we want to be practical about where we're investing our time. And so when it comes to hone and focus, like I have several clients who are writing books. And they're also running businesses and they're also parents. And so if you can imagine, they have a lot on their plate. So how in the heck are they going to pull off, let's say, writing a book? The only way is to hone and focus. And so the advice I give my clients who are, like, for example, writing a book, is to block that time, and you can't have any interruptions. This is when you turn your phone on airplane mode. This is when you don't have, like, if you're doing it like working in a home office, you tell your kids, you tell your spouse, please do not interrupt me unless the house is on fire. This is where sometimes you might need to go to a coffee shop or wherever it may be, but you have that block time of uninterrupted focus. And that is so important. Most of my clients, like I've had the pleasure and honor of coaching, of course, rock stars like Adam. And this is what probably one of the most common things that I coach on more than anything else is hone and focus, because it's so easy to get distracted. It's so easy to get not practical about time. Like if you want to write a book or if you want to find the love of your life, you're going to probably need to invest some block time in dating. Right? So it's like, where are you investing that time and making sure that you have those time blocks blocked and then they're going to be uninterrupted. And if you have someone holding you accountable for that, so like a coach, or you could have like an accountability buddy. I would say if you have an accountability buddy, just make sure that they're going to be the kind of accountability buddy that you will respect, that you'll want to be able to be, number one, honest with them at all times. And 2, the way they respond to you is very helpful. And that just depends on each person. So that's the 5 steps for goal achieving. I could dive deeper into any of these, but I wanted to go over that first, Adam. Do any of you guys have any first like customized questions or anything so I could dive deeper if you guys have something going on where you really want help in making your 2018 incredible? Any questions? Oh, tips on how to figure out your niche. So Adam, I'm gonna give you this one, and then I'll give my tips on figuring out a niche. But I'd love for you to comment on that one because I know that's your wheelhouse.
I'm assuming you're talking about your business and how do you figure out your niche in your business. I think it's a mixture of two things. I think a lot of people say, oh, just like do whatever you're passionate about. But I think you also have to realize that the purpose of a business, right, is to also make you money. So you have to make sure that whatever niche or market that you're going to go into, that it's something that's going to be a profitable market. And usually the faster way to figure out is there anybody else selling in that market that is doing it successfully? And then from there, I think as long as you know that, hey, this is a market that can actually provide me income and the reason why you'd start a business, right? Then I think it's about figuring out like, what are you interested in? And I think the best thing I actually learned from Russell was to think about like, what are the things that you research on the internet or that like you really geek out on when you're not necessarily doing business. And that's a really good way to figure out like what your, I guess what your calling is or your niche is. So what is your advice, Mandy? I'm interested to hear.
First off, I want to reinforce, Adam, what you said, because Jenna, if you're asking for business and you want to make a profit, it's so important to pick a niche that you know is going to make money. Otherwise, you're not going to have a business. So I think that is first and foremost, like one of the most important. The second thing I think of is like, what's our greatest passion tends to be like, what is our greatest wound? Like what was your greatest wound, and then you overcame it. You tend to be remarkable at helping other people who also have that wound and helping them heal it. Like that's why Russell is, Russell Brunson, our mentor, is so great at helping internet marketers like Adam, because he's done it where he has done it all the wrong ways that caused him a lot of pain. And then he got out of it. And now he's done it in a way that now he's profitable and he's joyful and he's happy. So because of that, Russell is an amazing mentor for other internet marketing entrepreneurs. And so that's why that's such a great niche for him, because he's gone through that wound. So what I would say, Jenna, in addition to Adam's great advice, is thinking about like what wound, like what challenges you've overcome and you've healed that you could help other people from. Cool. And then Corey says, I found that putting it on my calendar makes me way more accountable to do what I set out to do, honing and focusing. Exactly. It's like if it's not blocked on your calendar, it's not going to ever happen. And so if you guys think about, if you've been beating yourself up that I haven't been working out, or I want to write that book, or I need a date, or whatever it is, then look at, is it on your calendar? Where are you investing the time? Turner asked, the second C, Turner, is create a rock star team. So I know I talk fast. So the first C is create an inspiring vision. The O is omit the lies. The A is assess strengths and weaknesses. The second C is create a rock star team. And then the H is hone and focus. Okay, Ingrid says, we have this vision on making money and getting a better life for ourselves and our family. But what is this fear that holds you back? How do we overcome this fear, this obstacle? I've been so close to victory, but won't achieve it because this fear. So Ingrid, thank you so much for sharing that. And I had two very different answers. One is because I don't know you, and I would want, like, my coaching self is already wanting to like talk to Ingrid and find out like, what is this about? What's going on? Like, I want to dive more. So I don't like giving like just general blanket advice. But the first thing, Ingrid, is I would say, I would love for you to have like a one-on-one conversation with the coach. Or it could be sometimes, like, I've had clients who have PTSD, like they've got like serious fear because of going for something and then not achieving it. And that's where I actually recommend an EMDR therapist. If you haven't heard of EMDR, you could Google it. It's great for people who've been through trauma, and have PTSD through failure. We could have actually PTSD through failure. And I know most coaches most coaches won't tell you that because they're going to want to coach you. But if it's chronic, Ingrid, I would look at an EMDR therapist. If it's not chronic and there's just a lot of, and you want to do it, but you're scared, then I would look at you getting a team. because it's amazing, especially as us as women. Men are this way too, but it's really hardwired in us as women, is we tend to do way more for others than we will for ourselves. So Ingrid, like if you have someone to be accountable to or someone on your team to help you, you would probably be surprised how much you'll go outside your comfort zone and overcome that fear if you are really doing it for someone else just besides Ingrid. I hope that's helpful. Nico says, hey, Mandy, for me, my vision includes financial success and fitness success. What I mean by that is I have a vision of who I am becoming and what it will look like, feel like. So for me, that encompasses business and fitness. That's 2 goals though, or 1. So yes, you're right, Nico, on that. What I love is that if you could create, Nico, a movie scene that embodies both. So if you could create one movie scene that can embody both, but you're going to have to pick one just for the 2018 year that you're going to hold higher than the other. Does it mean that you can't accomplish both of them? Of course you can. But I would you're going to have one that is going to be priority over the other, because trust me, you're going to be tested on it. So it's like, are you going to go to the gym or are you going to do this? It's like, so you need to make sure that you just have what's the number one priority. And then if you can create a movie scene that embodies both of them. Oh, Gabrielle says she had the same question as Nico. Perfect. So if you guys have both a fitness and a health goal, you guys just 2 things, create a movie scene that embodies that. So like if we take Adams, he would just describe how amazing he looks, when he's at his family's house in Tahoe and how, he's getting made fun of for his 6-pack, it's like, so he would embody both of that. But at the same time, you need to make a decision which one's number 1 and which one's number 2, because you're going to need to make decisions throughout the year of which is the number 1 priority. I hope that makes sense. Where can you find a coach to help me find out what my strengths and weaknesses are? So Claudia, Adam, if you want, I can send you some contacts I have as far as coaches I recommend. If you want to ever introduce any of your team to some amazing coaches. Here's my blanket general advice for finding a great coach, because coaches are just like therapists or just like hairstylists or just like any other profession. There's some great ones and there's some crummy ones and there's some okay ones. So how do we find the great ones? It's the same way we find a great hairstylist, and that is through referral. So if you know of other people who have results that you want, and you ask them like, who's your coach? I would be happy. Like I said, Adam, I have some great coaching friends. I'd be happy to give you some names if Claudia wants to reach out to you, and I could pass that on.
Yeah. Also, Claudia, the other thing is the DISC profile. I don't know what the website is. I think it's tonyrobbins.com/disc.
Mm-hmm.
But I just had an understanding of that. Mandy taught me that this year, and it was really, really big in helping understand myself. And it's actually pretty simple. There's different videos on YouTube that explain like how to assess it. I don't know if your video's on YouTube, Mandy, but if your video's on YouTube, it'd be the best one.
Oh, thank you. I don't think it is, but yeah, there are some great videos on YouTube. And also I highly recommend the book that I mentioned earlier, Claudia. If you go to Now Discover Your Strengths by Marcus Buckingham, he's one of the best that's talked about like your natural strengths. And so I think that book, you'll find that book to be very inspiring. And a Buckingham coach is probably a good bet too. So Marcus Buckingham has an organization that has Buckingham coaches. So if you're looking specifically for a strengths coach, that could be a great resource. Cool. Nick Jones says, in my last semester of college, have been wanting to start a social media marketing agency, but afraid I won't have time to do both this coming spring. Also, if I don't have a few clients by May, I'll most likely need to look for a job and start a business on the side. How would you go about goal achieving for starting a business with the situation I'm in? I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to first give it to you, Adam, because that's a great question for you.
Okay. So this is how I started my first business, because I started my first business in college as well, and I was busy taking a full course load.
Really?
Yep. I started like gradually in that business. School was my number one focus. I kind of had my business over here. I think one thing that's important, if you don't have like your family supporting you or whatever, and you need a source of income, I think it's always important that like, if you're starting a business that you have money, because a business does require investment. You do have to fund it, right? So I think that is important. But also like, for me, it was kind of a gradual thing. I kind of eased into it. Like as I got more and more busy with my business, I spent less and less time on my schooling. And I'm not sure this is the right advice, but I eventually got so busy with my business that I ended up dropping out of college. I'm not telling you should drop out of college, but that's just what I did. Because in my mind, the way I rationed it, and you can think whatever you want, and again, I'm not right or wrong. But I thought, this business, I have this opportunity that's here right now. College is something that I could always go back to. And in my honest opinion, I think you can learn a lot more through starting a business and getting around the right people, depending if you want to go the entrepreneur route or not. But anyways, that's my advice.
That's a great story. That's inspiring. So yeah, Nick, again, I love Adam. You could tell Adam was on fire, right? Like Adam was committed. And again, this goes back to you guys. So it seems to have a theme. We have another question about, fitness and success. Can't they go together? So this is actually a great point of, have you guys ever heard that saying, like the mind can't serve two masters? And so you got to have what is your number one priority? Like Nick, if it's important for you to graduate and this is what you want to do, then you got to make that your priority. And if you need to get a job or whatever it is to make that happen, you have to decide. And this is a great lesson. It's a hard lesson for all of us, is to look at what are our values? What is our number one value? Like there's people where their value is of family is above business. There's people that's value is business is above family. And I'm not saying like better or worse than, but in order for you to know how to make decisions with your time and your money, you need to know what's number one. So that's why when I say like having that one focus is like for the year, like if it's health and you're right. Someone said, doesn't it, like if you combine them, doesn't it help? Yeah. Like if you're going to be fit and healthy, that makes you a better person to be more financially successful, you bet. But you're going to be tested because there's only so much time of the day as far as which takes priority. If you're going to do this conference call or going to the gym or whatever it may be, you just need to keep in mind what's number one priority. So Nick, I would put it back on you and I would look at what is it that, like, what's most important to Nick? Like it sounds like you need to do a values assessment of what's most important. Because like Adam's story, it's very clear what was most important for him. So he had, the discipline and the guts and the courage to follow his business dream. Cool. Let's see. Oh, someone else is a hairstylist. Okay. That's awesome, Claudia. Is there a website you can go to for the disc assessment? Oliver, the one on Tony Robbins, should work. You just have to go through, click on the thing that says assessments. And then there's like 3 different assessments and disc assessment is one of them. Gabrielle, I'm currently in sales and it's going very, very well. Congratulations. I'm making more money than ever before, but it's very stressful because it's not my passion. I want to be full-time in my own business. Every time I spend more time on my business, I find my job overtaking most of my time. And I always seem to shift back to my job. Any tips? Again, I'm going to hot potato this one to you, Adam, and then I'll give my feedback.
I'm not sure I'm the best person to answer it because I've never necessarily been in this situation. I've kind of always been an entrepreneur since I was 18 years old.
Yeah, you live, eat, breathe, and sleep it. And so here's, and Adam, you're actually a great example because Gabrielle, what you're doing is you're doing a thing that's called straddling, where you have one foot in your job and you have one foot in your business. And here's the truth. Straddling sucks. It's hard. And so the first thing, and I've coached a lot of people who have been straddlers, the first thing you want to do is you've got to understand that temporarily, if you are really determined and hungry to be a business owner and to do like your own dream business, you got to eat, breathe, and sleep it when you're not in your job. So I use the movie comparison. If you guys have ever seen Shawshank Redemption with Tim Robbins, where it's based on a true story of a prisoner that escapes by like a spoon under the Raquel Welch poster. And then eventually he frees himself. And what you're doing as having a full-time job and starting your business, not easy. It can be done. And here's the ugly truth. You have to be okay with having your life, Gabrielle, out of balance. You're not going to be in balance for a while. You're not going to be like, okay, I did my yoga. I got this. I spent time with grandma. Like, you're not going to have balance. And that's the biggest thing you're going to need to accept. And you need to get that you're kind of like a soldier on a mission. And when you get home from work, that's where you're like, okay, now I got to get on my hat, instead of doing what the majority of people do, which again, this is good for balance, is they eat dinner, they talk, they maybe watch some King of Queens or some Netflix, and then they go to bed. You don't have that luxury. And so the biggest thing I would invite you to look at is what you can do to invest more time to hustle, to replace your income with your business so you can quit that job, because that job is holding you back. Would you agree, Adam, that at least it's like if you have a job, it is holding you back. And that's step one, is to be able to replace your income so that you could be free to do your business.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully put, Mandy. Yeah, I think that's spot on.
Cool. Amazing group. You guys are fun. Thanks for your questions. Are there any other questions? Okay. Claudia, I'm going through Adam's course at the moment and wanting to learn affiliate marketing. And when I look at what I'm good at, it's a chosen career, hairdressing, but don't know how to create a course to create a passive income from it. Do you have any thoughts on that, Adam?
Claudia, we need to talk on maybe Voxer. So we can speak more about that, because that could be a little bit longer of a question. And
I will tell you, Claudia, I don't know if she knows of like Garrett White's wife. If you look up Claudia in Instagram, let me find her. So she's a hairstylist and she's making a lot of money with the hair extensions. Like she has women flying from, like, she's in LA and she has women flying from New York like once a month, and she charges Claudia like thousands of dollars to do these hair extensions. And she's creating, so if you look up on Instagram, it's DKW Styling, Claudia. She's a great example of a woman who's a hairstylist who's created like her own brand, her own movement. And it's really inspiring. So I think like looking up Danielle White, DKY Styling on Instagram, that could give you some ideas. I think you need to see other examples of women who have your same skill set and seeing what they did. And that could give you some ideas on how you can add value even more out in the marketplace. And talk to Adam on Voxer. You got that brilliant mind. Use it. Okay. I'm on the same boat, do exactly what Mandy recommended. My job is very demanding, and all I do after work is work through Adam's videos and modules. Good. Good, Elijah. That's awesome. That's what you got to do. You guys got to hustle. I know it sucks, but when you're free of that job, then you feel like Tim Robbins at the end of Shawshank. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you should go rent the movie Shawshank, because it's awesome. Mandy, I want to be a coach like you. How did you get started? I feel like a fire inside me to help people. Do I need to be successful first, or do I have to confidently share? Okay, so you guys want to know a secret. Someone's asking me if they need to be successful first to be a coach. And I'm going to share something with you guys that most coaches won't tell you. And that is, no, you don't. I was a coach at 21 years old, and I had never owned my own business. I didn't have a lot of relationship, but I didn't have a lot of life experience. Now, I will tell you that today, 20 years later, I'm a much better coach because I do have that life experience, which is great, but so you don't need to wait. And I would really find like, who are the people you can help? And remember that coaching, like true coaching, is all about the psychology and what's going on between your two ears. And then you can recommend courses like Adam for people who want, let's say, more tactics on starting a business. If you want to get certified as a coach, here's my recommendation, is I would look at the site Board Certified Coaches. It's BCC. And I would only go through a coaching institution that will give you a BCC certification, because the coaching industry right now is like the Wild West. Anybody can hang up their shingle and say that they're a coach. Eventually that's going to change. It's actually in the legislature right now, which is good news because it's kind of clean up the coaching industry. And you won't be able to coach eventually unless you have your BCC. And that's under the website Continuing Coaching Education, the CCE site. If you guys ever have any trouble with that, I can give Adam the link and he could post it somewhere, or he can send it to you. But just make sure that if you go through a school, and I would recommend going through a school and through a training and become board certified. That's what I'd recommend.
Awesome.
Cool. You guys are awesome. This is fun. Thank you, Adam. Any questions? So any tips on how to tell stories? Want to do affiliate marketing, good at writing? Adam, you're really good at telling stories. Do you have any? I got some tips I can share, but do you have any off the top of your head?
So yeah, well, this was actually a goal because I used to not be good at telling stories. And this was actually a goal. I don't know if you were, whoever's asking this, I don't know if you're at my last live event or the one that I did about a year ago from now, but that was one of my big goals, was I wanted to become a better storyteller. So I kind of did a process like you guys learned today, where it was a focus of mine to become better at telling stories. And kind of the way that I learned how to tell stories was just like coming up with a formula. And actually Russell's Expert Secrets book was really good. But kind of coming up with a formula of like telling a backstory and then like some big aha thing that happened, or some like big exciting moment that happened. And then after, like, what was the result of that? And if you notice, like all stories, they kind of follow that similar pattern. So that was something that I learned. So that way, when I told stories, I went through that same process. And then also another thing was just listening to people that are good at telling stories. I was just out the other night on Saturday with this guy that I met that was incredible at telling stories. Like he told me like a 10-minute story, like in the middle of this like noisy bar, but I was like really captivated. So I was just like studying how he did that. And I even complimented him after. I was like, wow, you're a really good storyteller. So I don't know.
That's great. Well, I think you make a really good point, Adam, is that storytelling is a learned skill. Now, there might be some people like this guy in the bar, maybe he's never taken a course, but he's got that like unconscious competence. Some people are just gifted with being able to tell that. But the good news is we can all learn it. And storytelling is a learned skill, and you can become and master it. It's one of the best skills to be able to master. Something else I've learned from Russell that he has said is that he notices the reactions of people when he's telling a story, and that helps him perfect it. So it's like, if I'm telling a story and Adam's like energy's starting to drop, then I'm like, okay, maybe I should cut this part of the story out. Like if you could tell they're kind of like getting bored or they're zoning out, or if you just feel the energy dropping, then you realize, okay, this is not a great part of the story. If you realize, oh my gosh, they're getting verklempt, or I'm really reaching them, then okay, that's good. So I would say studying storytelling, like Adam was saying, and there's so many I think there's some really good TED Talks on that too. And then practicing telling your stories and noticing the reactions of other people. Oh, we got a question for you, Adam, from Claudia.
Yeah, Claudia says she's up late at night going through the modules. She feels overwhelmed learning a whole new skill. Is this normal? In my experience, yes. I think anytime you go through learning a new skill, at first it's very hard and you kind of hit this wall, and it's like as you keep pushing through, like everything becomes easier and easier and easier. But yes, I think even like you, I know you're a hairstylist. I think even when you first start cutting hair, it's probably a little bit hard, but then like it just becomes more effortlessly. And I guess that's how you learn any skill, right? Is repetition is the mother of all skill. You do something over and over again, you keep learning, you become better, it becomes easier. So I think that's pretty normal what you're going through. At least for me, it was when I learned internet marketing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've heard another quote is that learning is an ugly process with beautiful results. And so like most of us don't want to go through that learning process because it's quite humbling on our ego. But I know Claudia being a hairstylist and all the chemicals, like this isn't natural blonde. I know you guys might think it is, but it's not. And so like, I know with what my hairstylist has to do with like the chemicals and being able to make it so it's not orange, but it's blonde. Like you're like a scientist, you know, it's very impressive. Most people don't realize what hairstylists do have to learn to be able to do that. So if you could become a hairstylist, you can learn this, Claudia. You got this.
Right on. Hey, Mandy. Well, it's been about an hour, so I think it's about time we wrap it up. Once again, thank you so much for doing this. I think everyone had huge breakthroughs. I know it was really good for me to hear this again. There will be a replay. We have been recording it, so I'll make sure to email it out to everybody that registered. And yeah, if you guys would just say thank you to Mandy here in the chat box and let her know that we appreciate her, that would be awesome. So give a thank you to Mandy. And yeah, awesome.
Thank you, Adam. This was a blast. I always have fun with your group. And thank you, Adam. And congrats to your accomplishment. Have a blast in Tahoe. And if you guys need anything, Adam, please, like anything that your team needs, I'm here. Be happy to help and serve any way I can.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks again so much, Mandy.
My pleasure. Bye, guys.
All right. Bye, everybody.